Medicare doesn't cover loneliness. And a Social Security check doesn't buy you a reason to get out of bed. Retirement can turn you invisible fast, especially when your 401k doesn't. Stretch like you thought it would, and your calendar goes quiet. If you've been snapping over small things, it's not because you're getting old. It's because something deeper is sitting underneath it. I'm going to say something that nobody puts on the retirement brochures. Part 1. When the calendar goes quiet, you start to disappear. I'm going to say something that nobody puts on the retirement brochures. The first thing you lose isn't your paycheck, it's your proof. Your proof that you matter to somebody, somewhere, because you had a place to be and a reason they expected you to show up. When that's gone, the calendar doesn't just look empty. It starts to feel personal. The first few weeks after I stopped working, my days got quiet in a way that didn't feel peaceful. The phone didn't ring much, and the only appointments I had were Medicare paperwork and a pharmacy run. I'd check my bank app like it was a new hobby, waiting for that Social Security deposit to hit. Then I'd stare at my 401k balance and pretend I wasn't doing math in my head. That's the part people don't say out loud. Being free can feel a lot like being cut loose. And then the anger shows up, not in big dramatic ways, but in stupid little moments. I snapped over a minor mess on the kitchen counter like it was a federal crime. I got irritated because a coupon didn't scan, because the remote wasn't where it should be, because the mail had more junk than bills until the bills came. If you've ever shocked yourself with how sharp your tone got over something, small, I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to tell you what it usually means. I used to think my temper was just me getting older. I told myself I've earned the right to be cranky, like that was some kind of badge. Then I lost something that didn't make a sound at the time, and I didn't notice until it was gone. I lost my sense of being needed. Nobody was waiting on me. Nobody needed my decision. Nobody needed me to fix anything, and my pride didn't know where to go with that. Now I know my anger wasn't about the small mess. It was about feeling like my life had been downgraded without my permission. That's the shock of retirement nobody warns you about. You don't just stop working, you stop being counted on. And for a lot of us, especially the ones who were reliable for decades, that feels like becoming invisible. We don't call it loneliness because that sounds too dramatic. So we call it boredom or restlessness. But deep down it's fear, plain and simple. Fear that your best days are behind you. Fear you're not useful anymore. Fear you're turning into the person people check on instead of the person people depend on. Here's how it plays out in real life. You start saying no before anyone even asks, because you don't want to spend 25s on lunch, or burn a gallon of gas driving 12 miles across town, or admit your knees can't handle a long walk. You tell yourself you're being practical, and sometimes you are. But sometimes you're hiding. You let the week pass, then another week. And suddenly the diner on Main Street feels like a place you used to go. Not a place you belong. That's how disappearing starts quietly, politely, and one canceled plan at a time. And if you're on a tight budget, this gets worse, because shame joins the party. Maybe your 401k didn't stretch like you thought it would. Maybe the Social Security check covers the basics, but it doesn't cover the surprises: car repairs, co-pays, prescriptions, the price of groceries climbing like it has no ceiling. Then there's downsizing decisions you don't want to make, and Medicare paperwork that reads like it was designed to wear you down. When life starts feeling like forms and bills, it's easy to start feeling like you are just another expense. Let me say the hard truth in a clean sentence: you are not broken. You are in a role transition. Work gave you structure and it gave you status, even if you didn't love your job. Retirement takes that away and dares you to build something new without a boss, without a schedule, and without applause. Most people don't fail at retirement because they're lazy. They fail because nobody taught them how to replace a role with a new one. So here is the first move, and it's not therapy talk. It's a simple, practical exercise you can do today with a pen and one piece of paper. Write 5 lines, 1 sentence each. And do not overthink it. 1 for 40 years. People counted on me for Mar Chand. 2. I was useful when I did, Shabazz. 3. The kind of help I can still give is Mamo. 4. The kind of help I need to accept is Bai Shanig. 5. This week, I will show up as... Keep it ugly and honest, because nobody's grading it. Then do one specific thing that proves you still exist in the world. And it has to cost $0. Send one message that says, I'm thinking about you. You doing okay? Call one person you used to work with and keep it simple. No long catch-up speech. Or do one small act of usefulness that doesn't require perfect health. Take a neighbor's trash can back up their driveway. Offer to watch a grandkid for an hour. Or help someone fill out a form you already know how to handle. You are not trying to become a hero. You are trying to become visible again. And listen, I'm not promising this fixes everything overnight. Some days will still feel hollow. And you'll still have mornings where you wonder what you're doing. But that one small act is how you start rebuilding a role, one proof at a time. 1 week at a time. Now here's the question that matters. And it's going to lead us into the next part if time doesn't spare anyone. How many good years do you realistically have left? And what are you doing with them right now? Part 2. Time doesn't spare anyone, but it doesn't have to break you. How many good summers do you really have left? Not how many summers are you alive, but how many summers where you can still move without paying for it for 3 days, where you can still drive 20 miles without white-knuckling the steering wheel, where you can still enjoy a meal without checking your blood sugar or your blood pressure every 5 minutes. That number is smaller than most of us want to admit, and pretending otherwise is how regret sneaks in. This is what happens when the calendar goes quiet. Time starts slipping. Faster. When you're not anchored by a job, weeks blur together, and you don't notice until a month is gone. You tell yourself you'll start living next month, right after you handle the Medicare appointment, right after you get the car fixed, right after the Social Security deposit comes in and you can breathe again. Next month becomes next season, and next season becomes, I can't do that anymore. I used to think I had plenty of time. I used to think I could wait until I felt better, until I had a little more money, until the right moment showed up like a polite guest at the door. Then I lost something that proved I was wrong. A man I worked with for years, good guy, steady. The kind who always returned his tools was gone, just like that. 1 week he was complaining about his back. The next week his wife was making phone calls nobody wants to make. And I realized something that hit me harder than any financial loss time does. Not negotiate. Now I know this truth, and it's not poetic, it's practical. You can't buy time back with money, and you can't willpower your way into getting younger. You can downsize the house, you can stretch the 401k, you can pinch every dollar until it squeaks. But you can't purchase another year of strong knees. You can't save your way into one more healthy decade. If you're waiting until everything is perfect before you start living, you're going to die waiting. Here's the trap for people our age. We treat time like it's still a big bank account. We act like we're 45 and we've got years to fix the relationships, years to take the trip, years to say what needs to be said. But in retirement, time is more like a weekly allowance. You don't get a lump sum. You get a little bit, then it's gone, and you don't get a receipt. And I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying it to save you from one of the ugliest feelings a person can carry. I could have, but I didn't. Regret doesn't usually come from the huge disasters. It comes from the small delays that pile up. One missed birthday call turns into 2. Then it feels awkward. Then you stop trying. One postponed visit turns into the news that someone isn't well. Then the visit becomes a funeral. That's not drama. That's how life works. You know what makes it worse? The routines that look responsible, but quietly steal your days. You check the account balance every morning like it's a weather report. You time your spending around the Social Security deposit. You think about the 401k drawdown and whether you're pulling too much or too little. You do the pharmacy pickup. You sit in the waiting room. You sort the pills into the little plastic box, and suddenly the day is gone. Then you look up and wonder why your life feels like paperwork. So here's the turning point, and I want you to hear it clean. The clock is not negotiable. So the plan has to be simple and immediate, not inspirational, not complicated. Immediate. Because the biggest lie retirement tells you is that you have endless time to figure it out. You don't. You have today, and you have the next 72 hours if you're lucky and willing. This is where I give you something you can actually use. Not something that sounds good on a poster. It's called the 10-10-10 time list. Get a piece of paper. And don't do it in your head, because your head is where excuses live. Write 3 columns. Column 1, 10 people. People you miss. People you owe a call. People you'd want to see if you knew you were running out of runway. Some might be family. Some might be old friends. Some might be that guy you used to work with who you've lost touch with. Column 2, 10 places within 30 miles. Don't get fancy. A diner on Main Street, a park bench you used to sit on, a library, a church, a fishing spot, a small museum, the store where you used to feel like a regular. Column 3, 10 small things. Not bucket list nonsense. Small things that still feel alive. A cup of coffee with someone. A short drive to a familiar neighborhood. Sitting with your grandkid while they talk about their day. Walking 1 mile at your pace. Cleaning out 1 drawer you've avoided. Making 1 simple meal for someone else. Now comes the part most people avoid because it forces you to stop drifting. Pick 1 item from any column and schedule it in the next 72 hours. Not soon. Not this week. Name the day and time. Wednesday at 10 a.m. I'm going to call Frank. Friday at 9 a.m. I'm going to drive 12 miles to that diner and sit there for 30 minutes. Thursday at 2 p.m. I'm going to take a 1-mile walk, even if I do it slow. If you can't drive at night, don't schedule it at night. If gas is $3 or $4 a gallon and money is tight, pick something within 5 miles. This is not about impressing anyone. This is about proving to yourself that time still belongs to you. At least a little. And if your brain starts arguing, let it argue while you do it anyway. It will say, "What's the point?" It will say, "You'll feel awkward." It will say, "You'll spend money you shouldn't." Fine. Keep it small. Keep it cheap. Keep it honest. The point is to stop waiting for a perfect life and start living the life you actually have, because here's what I've learned in a way I can't unlearn. When time is limited, the most meaningful thing you can spend it on is people. Not the news, not worry. Not sitting alone with your thoughts until they turn on you. People. A phone call, a visit, a simple invitation. A conversation that makes somebody feel seen. The universe may not notice you, but humans do. And that's where meaning starts. So take that list seriously. Pick the one thing. Put it on the calendar like it matters, because it does. Then ask yourself this: if the clock is moving, whether you like it or not. Who are you going to spend your next good week with? And why are you still waiting to reach out? Part 3. The universe may not notice you, but people do. If time is short, and it is, then the worst way to spend it is alone in your head, arguing with yourself about why nobody calls. Loneliness isn't dramatic most days. It's quiet. It's the phone sitting there like a dead object, and you pretending you don't care. I'm going to say a hard thing, and I'm saying it with respect. Retirement will not magically make you feel seen. The universe is not keeping score, and it's not going to send you a sign that says, "Congratulations, you mattered." If you're waiting to feel important again, you can wait until you die, and the waiting will be the thing that kills you first. I've lived that silence. I've sat at the diner on Main Street, ordered something cheap because I'm on Social Security, and watched other tables talk like their lives still had momentum. I looked at my phone more than I looked at the menu. No new texts, no missed calls, just the same old notifications that don't mean anything. And here's the part people don't admit. When that happens, your brain starts writing a story for you. It says, "See, nobody's thinking about you." It says, "You're not needed." It says, "You were only valuable when you were working." That story feels true because it matches the quiet, but quiet is not proof. Quiet is just quiet. I used to think, if they cared, they'd call. That was the lie I lived by. I told myself I was being realistic, not needy, not clingy. Then the pain showed up in slow motion. Weeks passed. A birthday passed. A holiday passed. I realized I hadn't heard my own voice in a real conversation in days, and I didn't even know how it happened. Now I know the truth, and it's not flattering, but it's honest. Most people are busy, distracted, and not mind readers. Your grown kids are buried in their jobs, their bills, their own kids, and their own stress. Your old coworkers are wrapped up in new routines. Your neighbors are doing what neighbors do, staying in their lane, unless you give them a reason not to. If you want connection, you have to initiate it sometimes, and you have to do it without begging. That doesn't mean you chase people who don't respect you. It means you stop sitting like a statue, waiting to be discovered. People do notice, but they can't notice someone who never reaches out, never shows up, never answers, never says yes. Invisibility isn't always something done to you. Sometimes it's something you quietly choose because it feels safer than risking rejection. Let me tell you what changed it for me. And it wasn't some big spiritual breakthrough. It was one small moment where I realized I was acting like a proud man who was starving. I could afford my pride, but I couldn't afford the loneliness. Pride doesn't pay the bill when the house gets too quiet. So I did something that felt ridiculous at my age. I reached out first. Not with a speech, not with guilt, just a clean line. I called an old coworker Frank, and I kept it simple. I said, "Hey, I was thinking about you. You got 10 minutes. That's it." No explanation, no apology for existing. You know what surprised me? He didn't say, "Why are you calling now?" He said, "I'm glad you called. That's how it is most of the time." People aren't sitting there judging you for reaching out. They're busy, and your call is a break in their day. If calling feels too big, start smaller. Say something to the person you see all the time but never talk to. The cashier, the guy who always sits at the same booth, the neighbor walking their dog. You don't need to become the social director of your town. You just need one human moment that proves you still belong. Now I'm going to give you a tool that works because it's simple. And it doesn't require you to feel confident. I call it the one-text rule. One message a day, short and clean. No guilt, no long explanation. "No, I guess you're too busy for me." Just one message. Here are 3 examples that sound like a normal older American, not a therapist. "Hey, I was thinking about you today. How are you doing?" Or, "I'm going to the diner on Main Street this week. You want to join me?" Or, "No big reason, just wanted to check in." "Hope you're okay." That's it. You're not writing a memoir. You are opening a door. And let me address the excuses, because I know them. You'll say texting feels awkward, and maybe it does. You'll say you don't want to bother people, and you're tired of feeling like the one who tries. You'll say gas costs money, and you're not driving 12 miles across town just to sit somewhere and feel out of place. You'll say your arthritis is acting up, your hearing aid batteries died. You don't like driving at night, and your energy is not what it used to be. I hear you. That's why this rule is one text, not 10. That's why it's short, not emotional. That's why it's doable on a fixed income and a tired body. You can send a text from your chair. You can make a call before 7 p.m. You can meet for coffee at your place instead of spending $40 at a restaurant. Connection doesn't have to be expensive. It has to be consistent. But I'm not going to lie to you. The biggest reason we don't reach out isn't the phone, and it isn't the gas money. The real blocker is shame. Shame about money. Shame about health. Shame about feeling like you have less to offer now. Shame that whispers, "Don't let them see you like this." That shame is the reason we go quiet. It makes us hide behind "I'm fine" while we slowly disappear. And if we're going to talk about rebuilding a meaningful life at this age, we have to deal with that shame head on. Because it doesn't just steal your joy, it steals your relationships. Part 4. The quiet shame of getting older money, health, and feeling like a burden. I'm going to give you a confession that still tastes bitter in my mouth. I've stood in a grocery aisle, picked up the good meat, looked at the price, and put it back like I was doing something noble. I told myself I was being smart. The truth is, I was scared of the total at the register, and I was ashamed that I was scared. That's the kind of shame that doesn't announce itself. It just changes how you move through the world. You start doing math over everything. You start watching the Social Security deposit date like it's a lifeline. You start pulling from your 401k and feeling your stomach tighten, because every withdrawal looks like a countdown. Then you act like you're fine because you don't want anyone to see you flinch. And money is only one piece of it. Health has its own kind of shame. You cancel plans because your back is acting up, or your knees won't cooperate, or you're tired in a way you can't explain. You don't want to say, "I can't handle it today," because you don't want to sound old. You don't want pity. You don't want someone to start talking to you slower like you forgot English. So you disappear instead. Then pride shows up. Pride is the lead weight that keeps you from asking for help. Pride makes you think you should be able to handle everything the way you used. 2. Even when your body and your budget are sending you clear signals, pride makes you refuse the ride, refuse the invitation, refuse the conversation. And the cover story is always the same. "I'm good. Don't worry about me." Here's the hard truth. A lot of seniors aren't isolated because nobody loves them. They're isolated because shame makes them disappear. Shame about money, shame about health, shame about needing anything at all. It convinces you that you are a burden, and once you believe that, you start acting like you should remove yourself from the room. I used to think I was saving people trouble by staying quiet. That was the lie. I told myself, they've got their own lives. I don't want to add to it. Then the pain showed up in a way I didn't expect. People stopped inviting me. Not because they didn't care, but because I kept saying no. And I kept making excuses, and I kept vanishing. They learned a lesson from me without anyone saying it out loud. They learned, he's not really available. Now I know the truth, and it's not comfortable. Your silence doesn't protect anyone. It isolates you, and it trains people to stop reaching. When you go quiet long enough, you don't just lose opportunities to connect. You lose your place in the rhythm of other people's lives. And you can't blame them for adapting to what you taught them. Let me make this real. There was a lunch invite once, nothing fancy, just a few people meeting up. I looked at my checking account. I thought about the gas to drive 12 miles across town. And I pictured a $40 bill after tip. That number shouldn't have scared me, but it did. So I said, maybe next time, like I was busy. I wasn't busy. I was ashamed that I was counting dollars in my head like a teenager with a part-time job. Then there was the health side. I had a day where my joints were loud and my energy was gone before noon. I had a Medicare appointment that week, a pharmacy pickup, and a pile of paperwork on the counter that made me feel like my whole life had turned into forms. Someone called, and I let it go to voicemail because I didn't want to explain that I couldn't. Sit in a booth for an hour without my back tightening. I told myself I'd call later, and later turned into never. That's how it happens. So let's separate two things that people love to mash together. Responsibility is real. Responsibility is budgeting, taking your meds, going to the doctor, making downsizing decisions you don't want to make, and handling what you can handle. Shame is different. Shame is self-contempt. Shame is hiding. Shame is pretending you're fine when you're not, because you think your reality makes you less worthy of being seen. Responsibility keeps you alive. Shame starves your life. And here's the part nobody likes, but it's true. Shame is addictive because it gives you an excuse to stop trying. If you tell yourself, I'm broke, or I'm too old, or I don't want to be a burden, then you don't have to risk rejection. You don't have to risk being awkward. You don't have to risk someone seeing your limitations. You just go quiet and you call it dignity. But dignity isn't hiding. Dignity is telling the truth without turning it into a performance. That's the reframed truth without drama beats hiding. And boundaries beat guilt. Truth without drama means you say what's real in one sentence and you don't. Apologize for it like you committed a crime. It means you don't dump your entire financial situation on your kid like they're your therapist. It means you don't pretend you're 25 either. You speak like an adult with self-respect. Boundaries beat guilt because guilt makes you disappear. A boundary lets you stay connected without pretending you have resources you don't have or energy you don't have. A boundary is not rejection. It's a way to participate without paying with your pride. So here are some scripts you can use, and I want you to steal them if you need to. I'm on a tighter budget right now, but I'd still like to see you. Can we do coffee at my place? That costs a few dollars, and it keeps you in. The game. I can't drive at night anymore, but I can meet you before 4 p.m. That's not weakness. That's reality management. I'm dealing with some pain days, so I may need to keep it short. But I want to come. That's honest, and it doesn't beg. Do you hear the difference? You're not asking permission to exist. You're offering a way to connect that fits your life. Now here's your micro action, and it's simple on purpose. Today, write one sentence that tells the truth without drama. Just one. Make it about money, or health, or driving, whatever is making you hide. Then, within the next 7 days, use it once with someone safe. Send it in a text or say it on a call. The goal is not to get sympathy. The goal is to stop training people to live without you. If you're thinking, yeah, but I don't want to be a burden, let me hit that head on. Being a burden is not the same as being human. Humans need each other. Your presence is not a bill. Your voice is not a debt. The people who love you would rather adjust the plan than lose you to silence. And once shame loosens its grip, something opens up. You stop spending all your energy hiding. And you can finally ask a different question, one that actually moves your life. Forward. If I'm not going to hide anymore, what role do I step into now? What can I do? Even small. That makes me feel useful again. Not because I'm proving something, but because I still belong here. Part 5. Rebuilding your role. After retirement, being useful in a new way. Once you stop hiding, you have to step into something, or you will slide right back into isolation. Shame doesn't just make you quiet, it makes you idle. And idle is dangerous in retirement, because idle turns into drift. And drift turns into, I guess this is just my life now. Here's the blunt truth. When work ends, you lose the daily proof that you matter. You lose the calls, the problems that need solving, the little moments where someone depends on you. If you don't replace that role, retirement doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like being put on a shelf. I used to think, considering my age, my job is done. That was the lie. I told myself I had earned the right to do nothing, and I acted like doing nothing would feel good. Then the pain showed up. I sat around more than I should have, watched too much TV, checked my accounts like it was a sport, and still felt restless. I got irritated over nothing, because deep down I wasn't tired. I was empty. Now I know the truth. Your job may be done, but your value isn't. Being useful isn't about a title. It's about contribution. And if you don't find a way to contribute, you will start to feel like a burden. Even when nobody is treating you like one, Usefulness is the antidote to that poison. Let me make this practical, because I know what happens when people here find your purpose. They either roll their eyes or they panic. You don't need a grand purpose. You need a role that fits your body, your budget, and your actual life, one that gives you a reason to get up and a reason to connect. I'm going to give you 3 paths. Pick one, not all 3. 1. Because overwhelm is how people do nothing. The first path is micro-mentoring. This is where older people have more power than they remember. You don't have to start a nonprofit. You just have to pass something on. Maybe you help a grandkid with homework once a week. Maybe you teach a neighbor how to change a furnace filter, fix a dripping faucet, or replace a door handle. Maybe you show a younger person how to budget without living in fear. If you spent decades learning something, you can teach it in 10 minutes. Here's the barrier. I hear I don't want to lecture. Good. Don't lecture offer. There's a difference. Lecturing sounds like, here's what you should do. Offering sounds like, if you ever want a hand with that. I can show you what worked for me. One respects people. The other pushes them away. The second path is a small community role. 2 hours a week. That's it. A library, a food bank, a church pantry, a community center, a VFW or American Legion Hall if you're a veteran. These places run on reliable people. And reliable people are exactly what many retirees still are. The job is not glamorous. That's the point. You don't show up to be admired. You show up to be part of something that matters. Here's the barrier: gas costs money, and driving wears you out. I get it. If it's 15 miles each way and gas is $3 or $4 a gallon, you feel it. So make it realistic. Pick something within 10 miles. Pick daytime hours if you don't drive at night anymore. Ask if they need help once a week instead of 3 times. If you've got a bad knee or arthritis, don't sign up to lift heavy boxes. Sign up to sort, organize, greet, or do admin work. You are not trying to prove toughness. You are trying to stay connected. The third path is the home anchor role. This one is for the folks who say, I can't do much out there anymore. Or my health limits me, or I'm on Social Security and I can't spend money. Fine, this role happens right where you live. You become the steady one in a practical way. You make one weekly call to a sibling or a friend. You host coffee at your place instead of going out. You cook one simple meal for someone who's struggling, or you check on an older neighbor down the street. This isn't about money. It's about presence. Here's the barrier: you feel like your house isn't good enough. Or you feel embarrassed, or you don't want to be that person. That's shame talking again. If you can offer a chair, a cup of coffee, and a real conversation, you have enough. Most people aren't craving perfection. They're craving a place to be human. Now I want to give you something specific you can do this week. Because the problem with retirement advice is it loves to float above the ground. This is the micro role for 7 days challenge. And it is designed for people with real limitations. Step 1, choose one role for the next 7 days. Micro-mentoring, small community, or home anchor. Step 2, schedule one action connected to that role with a day and time. Step 3, do it once, even if it feels awkward. You are building proof, not chasing comfort. Here are 3 examples that cost $0 to $10. Example 1, call your grandkid or your grown child and say, I've got an hour this week if you need help with anything practical rides. Paperwork, fixing something. Keep it an offer, not a guilt trip. Example 2, stop by the local library and ask if they need volunteers for shelving or basic help, 2 hours a week, during daylight. Example 3, invite one person for coffee at your place and keep it simple. I'm making coffee on Saturday at 10, come sit for 30 minutes. If you want to make it even smaller, fine. Help a neighbor carry something. Share a tool. Write a short note to someone who's been quiet. Those are micro roles too. The point is not the size of the action. The point is the direction. You are stepping out of I'm done and into I'm still here. And I'm going to warn you about one more thing. The first time you do this, you might not feel a big emotional payoff. You might feel tired. You might feel awkward. You might wonder if it mattered. Do it anyway. The benefit isn't always fireworks. The benefit is that you go home knowing you participated in life instead of watching it from the couch. Once usefulness comes back, even in small pieces, your mind quiets down. Not because your problems disappear, but because you are no longer floating. You have a reason to get dressed. You have a reason to talk to someone. You have a reason to stop treating yourself like a burden. Now, here's what we have to talk about next, because this is where many retirees slip again. Usefulness gives you direction, but it doesn't automatically give you peace. Some mornings you will still wake up without motivation. Some days your body will hurt. Some weeks your schedule will fall apart because of a Medicare appointment, or a bad night of sleep, or just life. So the next question is simple. What are the daily anchors, the small rhythms that keep you from drifting when motivation fades? Part 6, Simple Anchors. Peace comes from rhythm, not thoughts. Even if you rebuild a role, you still have mornings where you don't feel like doing a damn thing. That's not a character flaw. That's being human at 60, 70, or 80. The mistake is thinking you can figure your way into peace. You can't. If your day has no structure, your mind will fill the empty space with worry. And worry does not need an invitation. I've had those quiet mornings that turn into an anxious spiral before noon. Nothing bad even happens, but I start running numbers in my head anyway. When is the Social Security deposit coming? Did the Medicare copay go through? What's the pharmacy bill going to be this month? How long can my 401k last if the market drops again? Then I sit there and pretend it's just thinking, when really it's fear doing laps. I used to think, once I feel motivated, I'll get my life together. That was the lie. I treated motivation like it was the engine, like I had to feel ready before I acted. Then the pain showed up. Days drifted, the anxiety grew, and little routines started skipping meals because I wasn't hungry, forgetting meds because I wasn't anchored to a time, canceling plans because it felt easier to stay home. After that came the shame, because nothing makes you feel older than watching yourself slide and not stopping it. Now I know the truth. Simple rhythm beats motivation every time. You don't wait until you feel better. You do a few small actions, and your head follows. Peace is not a mood. Peace is a system. So let me give you a system that works for people who are tired, on a fixed income, and dealing with real issues, bad knees, arthritis, hearing aids, fatigue, whatever you've got. I call them anchors because they keep your day from drifting out to sea. You don't need 20 habits. You need 4 anchors, and they're not fancy body, home, people, and meaning. The first one is the body anchor. I'm not telling you to hit the gym. I'm telling you to move enough to remind your brain you're still in charge. 10 to 15 minutes. A short walk or chair stretches if your knees are shot. Or simple range of motion work if you've got arthritis. Drink a glass of water before the coffee, because half of us wake up dehydrated and call it low energy. If you've got a Medicare appointment that day and you're already tired, fine, do 5 minutes. The rule is not intensity. The rule is consistency. The second one is the home anchor. Your home is either helping your mind or it's attacking it. Most seniors have the same stress pile mail, bills, insurance forms, pharmacy receipts, appointment cards, and a few things you keep meaning to file. If your counter looks like a paper factory exploded, your brain won't calm down because it reads chaos as danger. Do one 10-minute reset task a day, not a deep clean, 10 minutes. Clear the counter, reset your med station. Sort the paperwork pile into 2 stacks, action and trash. That's not housekeeping, that's mental hygiene. The third one is the people anchor. Humans are not built to be alone all the time, especially when the mind starts turning on itself. You need one fixed touch point every week, something that happens whether you're in the mood or not. It could be breakfast at the diner on Main Street. It could be a church group. It could be a community center class. It could be volunteering for 2 hours like we talked about. Keep it within 5 to 15 miles. Because gas costs money and driving wears you down. If you don't drive at night, schedule it before 4 p.m. If money is tight, make it coffee at your place or a phone call at a set time. The key is fixed, not sometime, fixed. The fourth one is the meaning anchor. And I'm going to keep it blunt because I hate fake journaling advice. 5 minutes, that's it. You do 2 lines. One thing you're grateful for, and one thing you're avoiding. Not what you should be grateful for, what is actually true. I'm grateful my legs got me to the mailbox. I'm grateful I have a friend I can text. Then the truth line, I'm avoiding calling my daughter because I feel embarrassed. I'm avoiding looking at my bank balance because it scares me. When you name what you're avoiding, it loses some power. It doesn't disappear, but it stops running the whole show. Now, if you're hearing this and thinking, that's too much, then you're exactly who needs it. Because when you're overwhelmed, you need anchors more than anyone. And this is not a lifestyle makeover. This is a basic framework to keep your day from collapsing into worry and TV and isolation. Here's how you make it measurable without turning it into a goofy self-improvement project. You do the 2-2-2 rule for 2 weeks. 2 body sessions, 2 connection actions, and 2 useful acts each week. Not every day, each week. That's 6 items, and you track them on a calendar like a grown adult. You put a check mark, that's it. No apps, no hashtags, no pretending you're training for anything. Let me show you what that can look like for someone living on Social Security. With limited energy and limited money. Week 1 Monday, 10-minute walk after breakfast. Wednesday, chair stretches for 10 minutes after your pharmacy pickup. That's 2 body sessions. Tuesday, 1 phone call to an old coworker at 3 p.m. Friday, breakfast at the diner on Main Street. But you order something simple and keep the bill under $15. That's 2 connection actions. Thursday, take a neighbor's trash can back up their driveway. Saturday, spend 10 minutes helping your grandkid with a school form or a basic life. Skill, that's 2 useful acts. Nothing in that plan requires you to be young. Nothing requires you to be rich. Nothing requires perfect health. It requires that you stop waiting for the perfect mood. And I'll tell you what happens when you do this for 2 weeks. The problems don't vanish. Your knee might still hurt. The bills might still be annoying. Medicare might still send you forms that make you want to throw them in the trash, but you feel steadier because your day has rails. You stop waking up wondering what the point is because your morning is anchored to something real. This is why I keep saying peace comes from rhythm, not thoughts. Thoughts are slippery. Rhythm is reliable. When your day has anchors, you can finally ask the bigger question without getting lost in your head. What does meaning look like now at this age in 1 sentence? And how do you live it tomorrow? Part 7, meaning isn't an answer. It's how you live tomorrow. If tomorrow looked exactly like today, would you be okay with that? Not could you survive it, but would you be proud of it? Would you feel like your life is still moving forward? Or would it feel like you're just managing pills, bills, and quiet by now? You've got something most people never build after retirement. You've got anchors, so your days don't drift as hard. You've got tools to connect, so you're not waiting to be chosen. You've got a way to talk about money and health without hiding. And you've got a role you can step into, even if it's small. That's not fixed, but it's stable. And stability gives you room to ask the big question without falling apart. Here's the hard truth about meaning. You're not going to think your way into it, and you're not going to find it like a lost set of keys. Meaning is not a mystery you solve. It's a pattern you live. Tomorrow, not someday. I used to think, once I figure out the meaning of life, I'll feel better. That was the lie. I treated meaning like a big answer I had to discover. Like if I thought long enough, the anxiety would lift and I'd suddenly feel satisfied. Then the pain showed up. Months went by where I did nothing but overthink over my mistakes, over my money, over my health, over the things I should have done differently. And because I was busy figuring it out, I postponed the small uncomfortable actions that would have actually improved my life. Now I know the truth. Meaning shows up when you do the next right thing, especially when it's uncomfortable. Meaning shows up when you call the person you've been avoiding, when you walk, even though you don't feel like it, when you show up at the diner on Main Street, even if you feel out of place, when you apologize without making excuses, when you say no to something that drains you. Meaning is not a feeling you wait for. Meaning is a choice you practice. So I'm going to make this simple, because a lot of you are tired. You don't need a speech. You need one sentence. I want you to choose a one-sentence meaning statement for this season of your life, not for the rest of your life, just for right now. Here are a few you can borrow, and you can change the words so it sounds like you. At this age, my meaning is making sure one person feels less alone because I showed up. At this age, my meaning is being steady for my family without trying to control them. At this age, my meaning is taking care of my body enough to stay independent as long as I can. At this age, my meaning is passing on what I know without preaching. At this age, my meaning is not disappearing, even when I feel ashamed. Pick one, then say it in plain speech. If you wouldn't say it out loud to a friend, it's too fancy. Strip it down until it sounds like you. Something like, I'm going to be the kind of person who checks on people. Or I'm not going to spend my last good years hiding. That's enough. Now, here's where people mess up. They pick a sentence, feel inspired for 12 minutes, then go right back to drifting. So we're going to nail it to the ground with a plan that fits a real retiree. Life, Social Security, Medicare, tight energy, tight budget. This is the Tomorrow Plan 3 lines. Grab a piece of paper, write 3 lines. And you do not get to keep it vague. Vague is how you stay stuck. Line 1. Who will I reach out to? One person. Name them, not family. A name. Line 2. When will I leave the house or move my body? A time. Even if it's 10 minutes, even if it's chair stretches. Line 3. How will I be useful for 10 minutes? 10 minutes, that's all. You're not trying to fix the world. Then you schedule it like it matters. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., I will call Linda. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., I will walk 1 mile, or I will walk for 10 minutes. Tomorrow at 4 p.m., I will help my neighbor with one small thing. Or I will send a note to someone who's been quiet. If you don't drive at night anymore, schedule it before dark. If gas is too expensive, keep it within 5 miles. If money is tight, make it coffee at home. Your meaning does not need to cost you $100. Now we need one more piece, because meaning isn't only what you do. It's also what you stop doing. Some of you are drained by habits that pretend to be normal. Doom scrolling the news for an hour? Sitting alone with the TV as your main relationship? Saying yes out of guilt, then resenting everyone? That isn't peace. That's slow erosion. So here's your no-drama commitment. One boundary said in a clean sentence, I'm not up for that tonight, but I can do earlier in the day. I can't make it, but I appreciate the invite. And I'd like to plan something simple next week. Or, if you need the hardest one, I'm not going to sit here and scare myself with the news all day. I'm turning it off after 30 minutes. That's not weakness. That's you protecting your remaining time. If you're thinking, this sounds too simple, good. Simple is what you can repeat. Complex plans die on bad knee days and low energy days. Simple plans survive real-life Medicare appointments, pharmacy refills, co-pays, and the days your body doesn't cooperate. And I'm going to say this plainly, you don't need to become a new person at 70. You just need to stop wasting your days like you have unlimited ones. You need to stop waiting to feel important. and start doing the small things that make you matter to real people. That's what meaning looks like in the real world. Here's my ask, and it's not marketing. It's accountability. In the comments, write one sentence. My meaning right now is yo. Or tomorrow I will, or keep it short. Make it real. And if you know one person who has been quiet lately, the one who always says, they're fine, send them this video. Not to fix them, just to remind them they're not the only one living through this. I'll leave you with the kind of thought that doesn't sound pretty, but it holds up under pressure. The universe doesn't owe you an answer, but you owe yourself a tomorrow that isn't wasted.